What is a biome, you might ask? Well, it's a large region of Earth that has a certain climate and certain types of living things. The characteristics of the tundra include short growing seasons, extremely low temperature, little amount of precipitation, and poor nutrients. There are so many biomes, but the main six are tundra, taiga, temperate deciduous forest, grassland, desert, and tropical rainforest. As you can see in this picture, there's many biomes, but all of them are across the world and in different places. My biome, I chose Arctic tundra. The tundra biome is a very large area, mostly snow, that has very little plants/life because of its very harsh conditions, such as very low temperatures and frozen over soil that does allow for only certain plants to grow. One plant that is very unique among others is the caribou moss, also known as reindeer moss. It has adapted to the harsh environment that is the tundra, and the tissue is not damaged by frost. If it did not have abiotic factors like oxygen, dirt, or carbon dioxide, it could die. This lichen is eaten by all of the steps on the food chain. Then we have the Arctic moss. It is in fact the slowest growing, longest living freshwater macrophyte ever recorded. Arctic moss is an aquatic plant which can grow underwater in the tundra. It has adapted to its climate by being able to store energy to use even when it isn't growing. Like most plants in the tundra, it grows low to the ground to avoid the harsh winds and freezing cold. Next is the Labrador tea plant. The plant has shallow roots for gathering water without going as deep as the permafrost. The plant has adapted to be able to achieve photosynthesis in the harsh climate. In the warmer areas of the tundra, it grows straight up, and in the colder areas, it grows almost carpet-like, closer to the ground. The plants keep the dead leaves that die for extra warmth. The leaves are curved and droop underneath to maintain that warmth. The dark colors of the plant, exception of the flowers, are to help the plant to attract heat. Bees are the only pollinators the plant can have because the plant's flowers are poisonous. If so much of one bite is taken off the flower, it poisons the animal and the animal dies. One of the invertebrates in the Arctic tundra is the Arctic bee. The Arctic bee have adapted to cold weather by growing thick fur on their bodies and beating their wings to increase their body heat. Then there are Arctic flies. Instead of the Arctic flies flying, they stay on the ground so they don't use too much of their energy. Now the moths that live in the Arctic tundra. To adapt to this cold area, they only come out at night to search for food. As you can see in this picture, you would assume that they blend in with their environment very well. For mosquitoes to survive in the tundra, they bask in flowers, orientating its body to absorb solar radiation. A polar bear. A polar bear has white fur that helps them blend in with the snow and ice. A polar bear has a layer of fat under its skin, which helps it stay warm. It also has a thick layer of fur. Polar bears are, in fact, omnivores. The musk ox lives in the frozen Arctic and roam the tundra in search of the roots, mosses, and lichens that sustain them. In winter, they use their hooves to dig through snow to graze on their plants that they eat. Snowy owl species, they need to have light coloration, ear-like feather tufts, dense layer of down overload with thick feathers, active both by night and day to help with the habitat they have. But the most important one is the Arctic fox. The Arctic fox is an endangered species. Their fur changes colors with the season of the year. The Arctic fox has many unique adaptations. For example, its white, thick fur and fluffy tail help it survive in its harsh habitat. Another species adaptation the Arctic fox has is their small pointy ears that help them hear prey moving underground. One reason of why the Arctic fox is endangered is because the Arctic fox faces a multitude of threats from climate change. Its sea ice and tundra habitat are shrinking. Its lemming prey are becoming less abundant in some areas, and it faces increased competition and displacement by the red fox, which is moving northward as temperature warm. Loss of sea ice and tundra habitat. For the caribou to survive, they travel. Caribou have survived over the centuries by traveling to the more temperate climate of a boreal forest. The threat that humans give is the melting of the permafrost as a result of global warming could radically change the landscape and what species are able to live there. Ozone depletion at the north and south poles means stronger ultraviolet rays that will harm the tundra. Oil spills can kill wildlife and significantly damage tundra ecosystems. Human influence in the Arctic are both seen and unseen. Human activity has seen a dramatic change in the Arctic due to climate change. This is by far the worst impact human activity has had on the globe, but in particular, the Arctic is fragile. Living in the Arctic tundra could be tricky. It is very cold and the temperatures get up to over -50. But if you're up for the task, you most certainly need heat, source of food, and shelter. On the food pyramid, you can see that at 0% there's polar bear, 1% a fox, 10% a hare, and at 100% a plant that is called an Arctic willow. The food chain in the Arctic tundra consists of predators such as owls, foxes, wolves, and polar bears at the top of the chain. Predators hunt herbivores, plant-eating animals such as caribou, lemmings, and hares. As you can see in this graph, there is precipitation and temperature. The temperature is usually in the negatives and typically not going to be higher than 0.